Good morning, everyone. So, first of all, thank you for attending this season. So, by spending your valuable time, I hope you guys will find some good insight from my talk. So, I just give a quick intro of myself. So, I am Sanjeev. That's Devday. I started my career as a solution consultant here, and it's been almost a couple of years. So, mostly work on platform inside applications. I have a good interest on data reading. So, my day-to-day life as a solution consultant will be similar to the SDLC life cycle. So getting requirements from stakeholders, bringing the stories, implementing it, testing it, and your smart shortcuts of for the delivery time. Things are going very well. So the current project which I was working for Cyber Queen still when it was an greenfield project. Uh, but suddenly there's shift in the development process due to the hype in AI. Project people are started to talking about introducing AI coding tools inside the project. Uh, Most people were interested in implementing it, uh, but some people were not have much interest on it. So unfortunately, I got not assignment. Yeah, I don't have a keen interest on using this AI tools. So in our project, we have experimented various AI research tools. So we have tried Cursor, then Copilot, and I think currently we are on phase. Uh, when we started this particular experimentation, so earlier I see some people, I said right, some people are interested in it. So earlier when they code, they faced many struggles. So their code was not good. There were a lot of bugs. But I thought, okay, the AI is just a hype. So still the manual coding will be evolved and go. And later by later, they're seeing a good improvement on their side. One day, a person gave a stand up like, "Hey, bro, I pick up a 3 pointer car." So I gave the context to the PR code. It generated a plan. I take the plan and gave it same to the cloud code. It implemented it. No one was speaking to review it, so I asked cloud code itself to review it, and he tested it. It works fine. So it may look funny. Uh, then I started to review its code. Hey, what this guy is done. I was surprised that the code looks actually very good. So but the bugs were there are no bugs. Even the mostly I was surprised with the test cases. So it can generate more test cases than a human puts it right. So I know some a bit of how LLM models or something is. A great uh, don't have great knowledge on it. So based on my understanding, what I think is only modeling is one of the factors to give the accuracy. So the age, so other part is the agent is doing some internal things in it. So I'm in interest of knowing hey, how this thing is working in terms of it. So I just look at the local config files, set up a lot code, go bend everything, and I was learning it. So from that point, I had a good interest on AI coding actions because the way the things marketing in AI and way the agent works is not. So that point of time, I was started to using this AI tools, and our team was slowly converting into AI abilities. Okay, so yeah. So slowly, our team was converting into AI-enabled teams. So today, my topic is about backbone of AI going agents. So it would be like what I learned in the interest of agents and how I got the interest to using this AI tools. Right. Yeah. So I'll quickly go through the agenda of my talk. So first, we will discuss about what coding agent actually solves. Most of us we think that coding agent is just used to write codes. That is not the exact same. It can do much greater than it. Then we will be discussing about the architecture of this coding agent, and then we discuss about the important components of these stages. And at last, I will share my learnings, how I turned from a person who is not interested in AI to use this kind of AI tools in my daily life. So, as I mentioned earlier, so this is the SDLG life cycle. So, as a solution consultant, I will be doing this in a day-to-day task. So, in my opinion, so I this is the points which I mentioned is, in my opinion, I need these kind of things to solve. These kind of things AI agents should solve. So, one is a search engine. So, when my manager or team lead ask me any context on the project side, so I'll be very confident to answer if I worked on this task. So let's say if he asks some other context, I would like, hey, that was work by him. I will connect with him and I will report you. Or else like, hey, I worked a long day back ago, so I don't have much context. I need to reels with the code. So I need a kind of search engine of the entire project context. So whenever I have anything, it need to just respond me the quick decisions or architectures have been used on the particular context. So another thing is intelligent with context. So I'm a coder, so I love coding, but I don't need to write code on Notepad. So I think mostly no one will like to write a code on Notepad. So I need some good IDEs to do it. Why I need IDEs? Because of its static recommendation. Yeah. But with the AI, the recommendations still in. So the recommendations can be done with the entire project context. So I need some intelligence. So AI, this agents can provide some intelligence to me. So another is a fast execution. I can say that any LLM models or AI agents can type faster than me. Not only typing, also the other actions it's being executed. So my agent should be, I need agent to do a task quickly than me. So another thing is feedback culture. So feedback culture is one of the main problem which I see in Agile is, so we will be looking to develop a cycle, but at last it came and maybe develop a motor car or something else. So because at the planning we will be have a discussion, while doing spike we will be taking other discussion, and when implementing the decisions could be changed. So each and every step, the feedback need to be collected. Yeah, we are doing manual documentations and everything, but still it is hard. Maybe somewhere we will miss. The old documentation may not be updated. So I need a system which can collect the decisions taken in the entire project. So my agent system should be like, it should retrieve the context from the project is collected, and it need to provide intelligence over it. Whenever I ask something, it need to predict the right answer, and other thing is act on it. So actions are need that writing codes, doing some action, other actions or something. Yeah. Then based on the action, if any feedback occur, it again need to continue the loop, reiterate from the project context, and the cycle need to be repeated. So I need a system to reiterate the context, reason on it, and provide a quick action on it. So this is a generalized architecture of a coding agent. So first of all, this agent I prepared from the by implementing open code architecture. So open code is an coding agent which is similar to Cloud Code, but it is an open source. So I couldn't. I think Cloud Code or Copilot didn't expose their kind of architecture, so I didn't get any material to do it. So I was exploring these open source tools, and I was preparing those things. So I'll just give a quick overview on it. So what is a multi-model system? So our agent need to be plugged under some of the providers like Cloud Code, GPT, and everything. So in this particular module, we will be looking at so how these particular providers keep their models. So how it accurate, how they improve the accuracy. So as I said, mentioned earlier, models accuracy is one of the factors to provide a good result. So it is not the entire thing. Only if I have a good model, I can write it provide a good result. Not like that. Even in your local O-level models, if you configure properly, you can get a good result. So another thing is the provider manager. As most of the AA agents will support multiple providers. You can connect Cloud Code whenever you need, and you cannot open AA everything. And there will be a particular service to manage it. And another thing is the session manager. So each chat window is opened in an AA agent will be a session. So in this particular thing, we can discuss about like how. So the message we are sending to the LLM will not be sent exactly to the exactly to it. So agent will do some intermediate operations. It may modify something. It may add some context. It may put your default system prompts and everything. So we can discuss about how it happens. So file interaction memory, it's like it is a topic which comes under both memory and session manager. So session manager uses file interaction memory to do a particular operation. So which I will measure the later side. So checkpoint and both these topics come under the same thing. And another thing, the token usage. So as we all know, so in the world of model, the currency is token. So we will be paid for what tokens we are using. So the tokens will be decided by the multi-coding system. So what tokenization which it has, based on it, the number of tokens would differ, and based on it, the usage of cost will be different. So other thing is a conflict manager. So conflict manager is uh, we may use Claude Code and Copilot. It is need to be using a coding assistant, but you can configure it and convert it into a content, a particular agent for writing contents or any other task. So agent provide that kind of configuration. So we discussing about how we can configure agents for our custom context or everything. And model configuration is all about connecting multiple models. So as I said, provider manager, right? So it is mostly discussed about how it maintains the RPs of multiple models and everything. Another thing is memory. So memory is so one thing is model doesn't have any memory. So model can only act on a particular thing. So agent stores some kind of memory. So we will be discussing about that particular architecture, how it stores in memory, what data it stores in memory, and everything else. And other thing is clients. So the various interfaces which we have to talk to agents. So we have terminal IDs, not normal IDs, VS Code IntelliJ, where even now in Slacks and T channels, you can connect an A bot, you can connect your cloud code and everything and it. And other thing is remote. I think this is a feature I introduced from cloud code. So you can connect your entire system from eight devices. You can connect from mobile and everything. So it may look as an it may look user interface. You may assume that for all interfaces you will get the same result, but actually it is not like that. So I think is anyone use AI systems in day-to-day life? Yeah, I think there are a lot of people. If you see the result you get from VS Code and the result you get from IntelliJ will be different. Yeah. So we can discuss. So in my conclusion side, I will tell why it differs. So my most of the whole content is like how it differs. I just inspired from it because when I first used this VS Code, it was working good. When I came back to iterate, the same prompt, it used some other random results. So I'm surprised. So that is a key point. I was looking at the internal agents. Okay, what it does, it is because the agent is a client side device or anything. Yeah. So from this entire architecture, you can see that an AI agent is a modular architecture. So in order to have an agent, you just require an interface. You just require a model. If you do, you have you can say I have an agent. I'm prompting. I was giving a query. It gives a response. Fine. So what is all this intermediate business? Why do we need all this intermediation? So that we can discuss in the legends lecture. Yeah, multi-model systems. So first of all, before the multi-model system, I just give a high-level overview of what a model is. So in my opinion, model is just a next token predictor, or in an abstract way, next word or sentence predictor. So if you give a particular context based on the past data beta, it will predict the next token. So there is a model. So multi-model system is in the current world, there's a two conflict topics in multi-model systems. One is like how ChatGPT handling. So ChatGPT will maintain multiple models of the version. GPT 5.1, GPT 4.7, and based on our prompt and temperature and everything, it will it will orchestrate to the right models and everything. So other concept which we will be discussing is a single model can handle multiple data types. So mostly agents use this kind of multi-model architecture. So we'll be discussing how a multi-model system which works. as I mentioned earlier, so these kind of models can have multiple data types. So it can also handle text. It can also handle image. If you combine text and image also, it can handle. So how we can see? So message input. First, the message input is passed to tokenizer. Tokenizer, what it does is splits. Suppose it splits the text, it splits the text data into multiple sub tokens, and each token is mapped with a token ID. In terms of image, it will convert into patches. So patches are nothing but a submatrix of the entire 2D image of the image. And other thing is codec. Codec is for audio. So based on the time frequency, it will represent a number and you will get it. So even though in text token, it is a string, but each string will be mapped to a token ID. So from this understanding itself, all will be converted into a kind of a numerical representation. So next, it is powered to an embedding model. So embedding model, what it does is it converts text into vector array. The vector is nothing but a numeric array. So it just uses semantic understanding to the particular token or the token ID which we pass. So each data type has different embedding model. So you can't use an image to you can't use image to pass to a text embedding model and text to pass the image embedding model. I will explain about embedding layer how it goes. Just giving a quick high level overview. So the vector is passing something called bridge. So your model will be trained by one kind of tokenizer. So if you train your model with Tamil, your model can understand French or something. Your model can understand Tamil. So here, most of the model uses text encoding model as the default tokenizer. So what this bridge does is it converts the vector written by the image embedding model to match the text embedding model specified. Let's say, let's take a particular word called cat. Cat will, text embedding model will provide a different vector. If you pop a cat image, it will provide a different vector. So what this bridge does is it will try to. So bridge is also a kind of internal embedding model which is already trained. It tries to map the image embedding model to the text embedding model. It tries to convert the image vector written by the image model to match the text embedding model. So one of the famous crystal is open code Clish. So this I think most of the Cloud Code also using the Clip tool to bridge this. So convert an embedding model from image to text. So then it gives to the LLM. So LLM what it is based on this already trained data set, it just predicts the next token and return to it. So this is the entire architecture of multimodal system. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, we can just go through how embedding model works. So what embedding model does? So embedding model just converts text to vector thing. So how it converts text to vector is embedding model will have an embedding matrix, so which is already a pre-trained 2D vector. So when you pass a text to it, it just maps and fetches the relevant vector for it. So how this particular embedding matrix they are considering is, so there are many algorithms. So one of the earlier algorithms is a bag of words. So they convert based on the frequency of words. So this was working on smaller tasks, but still it doesn't use any kind of semantic understanding of it. Then they gave out one-hot encoding. So one-hot encoding is just simply ordering the text in a 2D matrix and just providing numbers for it. So that is also doesn't give us a semantic meaning. Then other technology came called word to bit. So what word to bit does is, so your matrix has different properties. So if you see here, we have something called living being, like human, gender, royalty, verb, plural, and everything. And you try to put a probability distribution with a word to these properties. So if you take cat is a living being, yes, it provides 0.6. It is a human, no, it provides 0.1. So based on it, it constructs the embedding matrix. So this the way of creating a vector will provide a semantic understanding to this world. So if you try to grab these things, so cat will have more much similar to guitar. And if you see cat and houses, they have a significant difference on it. So this is the way they create embedding model. So on the famous embedding model is ChatGPT's text embedding model. They had multiple versions, small, large and everything. But the first this algorithm was proposed by Google's BERT. So BERT came up with this kind of technology. So all other companies are following this and building models of it. So I'll just give a quick overview on how LLM works. So the things which we there are some other concepts called transform architectures and everything for work with multi-model system, but underlying it is a neural network. I'll just give a overview of how it works. So 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 what is a model? So model predicts the next token based on the past data pattern. So you need to have some way to represent the data pattern. So that the way of representing data pattern is weights and bias. So weights and bias are parameters of the model. So if the vector you got it from the embedding model, you just pass to the neural network, and each intermediate nodes have an activation function. So weights are the parameters of the activation function, and based on the activation from the result of each vector, it goes through all layer and you will get an output. So how these weights are trained? Uh, First, in the training phase, initial there would be a random numbers of these weights and biases. So you will take a large dataset, follows the same approach, convert it to token and convert it into vector, and you just pass to the neural network model each thing. So at the initial stage, the weights and bias have some random values or some initializing values, zeros or something. So it passes to the neural network. It provides the result. So in the trained data set, you have an in, and you also know what output it has. So it compares with the output. If there is an error on it, it just back propagates and readjusts the weight. So adjusting the weights, that's a technique called gradient descent. Uh, that's a complex math kind of thing. Uh, it it used this process repeatedly, and it came up with a particular pattern based on weights and bias. So, uh, so this is a trait model, and the model, the way this model is being packaged. So when I mean model is packaged, only the weights and biases and number of layers will be taken. So it will be so based on this weight and bias, you can use it in your normal models. Based on it, it will provide a substrate. So layered model architecture. So uh, the things like Cloud Code or Copilot, it doesn't retrain the model every time. So if you take ChatGPT, sorry, GPT 5.1, GPT 4.7, even Cloud Code, it doesn't each time take the entire data set, train and does it. First, it will create a base model. Let's say in the first version, GPT 4.1 or something, it creates a base model. So in the other model, okay, I need to. Nowadays models are becoming like a marketing aspect. So just try implementing something for the specific use case that needed by the customers. So let's say in our topic, I've said it is developing for the coding agents. Then this particular base model is fine tuned with the uh, particular technical documentation, the documentations of some frameworks and everything, and it creates a particular model. And that particular model may be trained, again, fine tuned with some open source projects. So it will first pitch, they're mentioning they don't touch private repositories, but I don't know the actual fact of it. Yeah. Then it comes with a snapshot look. It tries to extract some questions from it and an output from it, and the model is again fine tuned with it. So this kind of layered architecture, most of the models like big companies have been doing. Yeah. Any other question on product? Yeah. If anything, there's a Q&A session at the last, we can discuss. So another thing is a prompt query. So this prompt query concept is not like what we prompt. So it is about what agent prompts. Uh, so yeah, earlier the statements would be like funny. So yeah, if people say learn prompt engineering, I'll use an AI to prompt. But actually, agents architecture is depends on it. So the entire accuracy, everything will be depend on this prompt reading, how agent could prompt. Even though what we learn prompt engineering, pay 9 rupees and do anything, the agent who does them internally, that is the main factor to give accuracy. So, so I think as I earlier said, so this preparation was fully inspired on the open code batch thinker because that is the I think most famous paper push project, and I also been used that open code in my personal project. It was working very good, and since it is in the initial stage, they also provide some free models, so there'll be if you guys want to do some experimentation, it will be more outcomes, a better place to do it in. So most of the other agents like Cloud Code and Copilot will also follow the similar architecture. Only maybe their business model will be because of it. As I mentioned earlier, so each chat window we open in a agent will be like a session. So each session is mapped to a project ID. So why it is mapped to a project ID? Because it at some point. So let's say we ask agent to convert JS to TS migration. Okay. So you need to understand what the particular project does and something. So based on this project ID, keeps track of the project, get insight from it, and isn't by the intermediate step, it will process add some context to it and send to the LLM. Other thing is the directory and everything. So this is the entire life cycle of how an agent will work. When we start it creates a session. So then uh, it initiates the context. So what is context? I will explain in the later slide. So that agent loop will be run. So you will be sending something. It by default the agent will add some intermediate response and set their LLM response something to the agent, and this loop continues as well. Then sparse subsession. So subsessions are being when the in the earlier of the this Claude code and Copilot, but it becomes famous when Claude introduced subagents. So when we introduced subagents, we came up with a concept called subsession. That is like it is like how we optimize in the regular platform engineering things. So using concurrency for background tasks, spinning up some threads or process and trust, right? So like this, some other external task, we create the subsessions and take the result from it. So other thing is a calculation. So most of the models, the cost calculations also depends upon the session. So they maintains a context window. So the based on the response and the inputs sent to the tokens, it will predict the cost of the particular session. If the session cost is over, either you need to create a new session, and there's another technique used by the modern agents to control that. That I will discuss in the next slide. So message. So session contains multiple messages. So this is the structure of the message thing. One is the info and it's the message part. Info contains the attributes like which session it belongs to and the rows. So the primary there are three uses. One is B, another is a modem, and another thing is the intermediate system which we are typing. And based on the what is the result of the particular task, status flag will do it. And the model. So each session we or in sessions we can each message we can attach a separate model to it. So model activity will do the same thing. And the error, suppose uh so this particular error attribute will be mostly given by the system thing. So only in certain situations, sense like internet connectivity issues or some P side of issues happening in the system, it will send this error message. So this is a sample structure how your message gets passed toward agent. Yeah. Yes. To learn about message parts, for different, there will be kind of different types of messages. So mostly you get into under about text part and file part. So tool card part and tool result part. I will explain what is tool in the later side. As of now, you can just consider tool as a particular function. So which LLM need want to call to complete a particular task. So this will be a tool call part will be sent by the AI assistant, and the tool result part will be sent by the system. And a file part is similar to name it. And this part is based on the patch. So most of the coding agents use some tool called patch. So it tries to generate the difference between the code which it changes and what it already existed. So this for that I think in open code it's the tool name is patch. I clearly don't know what Cloud Code and Copilot is using. So the particular patch tool's response will be the difference for it. So agent controller loop. So yeah, as we discussed earlier, when you give an input to the model, so the model will analyze your prompt. It if it requires some functionality or it requires some context, additional context, it may be needed. So it sends the response back to the LLM to say, hey, call this tool to get the context. So LLM will give the tool result. The system will give the tool result. LLM will process it again and provides an output. So I mentioned earlier, like, so the modern coding agents use some mechanism to control the session context token usage. So whenever you initialize the context, there will be a loss management module, so which tracks the amount of tokens used in the particular session. So there will be limit for a session. So for a session, you can use by 2 million tokens, or in the modern terms, they would say that the context window. So I think nowadays most models, Claude and I think GPT, or something, has increased this context window to 1 million something else. So what it does is, if it understands that a particular amount of token it was going to exceed the session's limit, so it there's a tool called Compact. What does is take your entire chat history, send it to an LLM to summarize it, and it gives a small data prompt. And while for continuing the session, it uses the prompt instead of sending the HTML procedures. So I think I missed to say this thing. So the message you are sending in a session, it's not like the let's say you are sending 5 to 6 messages. It's not only the current message is sending to the LLM. So all the message past history is sending all is converted into a JSON array and it's sent to LLM. So why it is needed is because LLM doesn't have memory. It just know LLM does just know the data pattern, which is considered as being some biases. And you need to pass entire context each text to make LLM understand your past context. Yeah. Other thing is memory engineering. So yeah, as I say earlier, so LLM doesn't have memory. It just knows weights. It just knows about the data weights and biases. But still, if you give some task, it goes to the particular project and picks the correct file and it tries to modify it. So in that state, if LLM doesn't have memory, so agent have he need to maintain some kind of memory internally. So I was just going to the internal cloud code setup of logging missions and found some interesting things. So which we can discuss. So one is a memory engineering versus context engineering. So this is a big conflict which is going on between in the market, like memory and context. So people usually confuse between these things. So context is not memory. Context is attention. Context is like what data you send in a single request. As I said earlier, so each time you will be sending the entire past history messages to the LLM model. So that's how you need to structure the prompt. It's based on how context is mostly pays the way to how I use a prompt. So what kind of prompting techniques and the other things are used. So memory is not that. So memory is like, so whenever you uh, chat with LLM tries to store some kind of data to understand about your project, some eager decisions, some information about workplace and everything. So that is a memory engineering, and we will be discussing on how this memory is constructed the agent side. So types of memory, we will be discussing about 4 types of memory. One is a session memory, that is nothing but the context thing. And another thing is a code-based memory, how it indexes our code base. So whether it stores all the particular data and how whether it just stores the files or in which format it stores the data, all we'll be discussing. Another thing is a file interaction memory, which I mentioned in my architecture. So in the session, but uses file interaction memory to send the context. So we discuss about what is file interaction memory is. And another thing is a intermediate decision. So based on I think intermediate decisions, most of the agents have failed to do. So there is a particular tool to perform it. But most of the times, I think people are still experimenting one. So based on your chat, is there any decisions you take in the overall project level? So it tries to store it or map it inside its memory. So that's an intermediate decisions. So file interaction memory. So one thing I did is, so when I was coding using AI assistant tools, uh, the AI assistant tools just give me a nice pair of code, but I don't want it. I asked him to undo the particular changes. So ideally, I should discard the changes, but well, I was busy. I was too interested in prompting. I just say, yeah, the given changes. Surprisingly, it undoes the what it had made. So I was like, hey, how it can does it? So then I go and first I checked the clock code and Copilot thing, but I couldn't exactly find the where it kinds of maps the data and everything. Then I took my open source tool over code and I do it. I can maintain that. Internally, it maintains a kit for this project. For each changes, it is creating a snapshot and tracking it. So this is how this LLM can undo the particular changes it can does. So all this usage of memory is all done by it. LLMs won't directly call. That's a tool to call it. Yeah. This is about file interaction memory. Then I pick the clock code. Clock code doesn't use a skip, but it uses some mechanism to track the file stream. And Copilot is also was using some other mechanism to track the file stream. So another is a code-based memory. So my why I didn't prefer to use AI assistant is I was like, hey, this entire my understanding is like LLM doesn't have memory. Whatever which I give, it returns a output. So for each prompt which I'm giving, the entire code base is going to the LLM. So this was the biggest pain point which I have. But I quick internally, it is not the same as which I did. So first, it converts raw code into chunks. So chunks is like if you in your file you can take multiple functions. So each function will be a chunk. I'm just giving an example. So each agent will has its own mechanism to divide those chunks. All the chunks will be converted into metadata. So to convert this metadata, the particular chunk is converted into an abstract syntax tree. So to convert into an AST, I think it's more of Python or JS library is provided. And based on the abstract syntax tree, it fetches particular information and create a particular index on it. So mostly it will be looking at mostly what it tries to is in a particular function, what intermediate calls it does. So surprisingly, it was not storing any kind of conditions or any business logic it does. It just stored what intermediate calls it this particular function does. So this is mainly used for mapping which function was used in which type. So other thing is that indexing. So indexing, so if you have stored something physically for search, we need to index some keys. So we will be discussing the next layer of how indexing works. And the retrieval part, as I mentioned earlier, so in order to retrieve the context, LLMs has a different tools. Each memory has a different tool to use. So our agent passes this tool information to the LLM, and based on it, LLM decides which tool need to be called and which data need to be cleared. So indexing, there are two types of indexing it usually refers. One is the symbol-based indexing. So symbol-based indexing, as I mentioned earlier, so it now LLM has a metadata on it. So symbol, which refers to the functions, let's say function name, class name, property name. These kind of these are the symbols of it. So how we extract the exact thing? So say the Java syntax is different from Python syntax. But even though if you give a Java or Python code, it extracts the right symbols, right function native. So how it is using is there is a tool called LSP. So LSP is a tool which is used by the modern ID. I couldn't say modern IDs. Yeah, it is used by IDs to syntax highlighting and everything. So using this LSP servers, so each language has its own LSP. It provides the things. Hey, this is the function, this is the class, and everything. And based on it, it extracts the symbol and indexing. So the indexing it stores the symbol name and the file path and line number. So uh, so that would be also another kind of simple indexing, like for intermediate calls. Let's say for indexing validate users. So it will say like symbol validate users, type intermediate call, and the parent function. And that's the parent index to it. So this is how it, LLM, based on this indexing, LLM can map which particular file contains which context. So another, spoke with you in the exam already. So vector is like as you seen earlier. So it's just simple. It converts the code into a vector and store it in vector DBs like ClickHouse and SQLite. So you'll get a semantic understanding of your code base and you get directly map on it. But the problem is most of the agents, even Cloud Code, even the premium agents, doesn't use vector-based indexing because all the agents are going to run in our local. So if you try to increase our more memory, so it just people would never use it. So, but still, you can add your agent to some extra coverage. Still, if you think, hey, I think I need to give some more extra contact, I think vector indexing would work fine for me. These are external open source, Mem0, CodeTrap, and Beats. Beats is not usually mean for storing a vector-based indexing. So it is for issue tracker system. So we just keep tracks each actions performed by agents in a vector-based thing, and based on the if a agent needs some information, past information, it will query to the beats thing and take the exact decision and she will make. But she can still configure the beats to use for vector-based indexing. And another thing is a memo clock. So yeah, Nemo clause also works similar to Mem0. It just it internally pops up with the DB and stores vector array. So other thing is on agent capabilities. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, so in the agile model, you may start with building a cycle. You may also end up with building a car or everything. So agent capabilities, which I may mean it like so configuring your agent to work with your system. So if you are working on a project, so usually these agents will be designed to solve a generic kind of problems or generic everything. But your project has some different business context, different business logic. So using this by configuring your agents, capabilities, I will discuss what kind of capabilities having it. You can create a particular agent for your project, not a generalized thing. So command agent skills. So these are so first of all, I divided this agent capabilities into two categories. One is a system prompt, and another one is an imperative coding skills. So system prompts are just like a text, nothing more tech aspects on it. So that's the most common confusion happening with these three things: command, agent, skills, and everything. So command is just like a shortcut key. So why do we need to use a shortcut key? If you do need to scroll up within your Windows screen and do some action, you just map it to a shortcut key and try to use a shortcut key for your thing. Yeah. So command is just use it is a shortcut key to call an agent. So what is an agent? So agent, in my opinion, it is just a prompt which contains tool information. So if you said something on like, hey, I need to do a particular task, what this agent particular does is it attaches all kind of tools it has and send it to the LLM. And automatically the LLM has it. So it has what you need and it also has what the system is capable of. So based on it, it tries to LLM will ask the system to call the tools and give the result and everything. So another thing is a skills. So agent, if you see the particular prompt, agent is similar to that. What uh, uh, agent, what you need to solve. So skill is like how you need to solve. So see, it doesn't like so hey, in agent I should prompt it like how it should solve. You can solve. It's just a modularizing technology. Skill is not a as you seen in the current type. Skill is not like hey, I have added this particular skill. It goes me pen. Not like skill is developed just for given a modularized architecture to write about. So nothing technical aspects as you've seen in the market. So each particular this capability has metadata. Most probably all are common. Maybe something maybe differ for agents, commands, and skills. So why don't it just gives a small description of the agent? So this description is also we pass it to the LLM. So based on it, it can figure out hey, call this tool, that thing. And, and another thing is a mode is closely to the agent. So there are two kinds of agents. One is a primary agent and sub agents. Sub agents, as I mentioned earlier, which will be called by the primary agent to do some external talk, or if the agent thinks that I can parallelize these things, you can create a sub agent and thing and call multiple span multiple subsessions and get results from it. Another thing is the temperature. So temperature is a factor sent to the LLM model. So how temperature is using in the LLM model is like, as I mentioned earlier, so I while then at the eighth layer of the neural network, it will compare the result with the original exact value. So temperature is just a probability distribution of it. While comparing what's the probability distribution of it. So if you, it will be ranged from 0 to 1. If you give a 0.1 or anything, so if you probably 0.1, LLM tries to give the exact desired result. So if you increase the temperature, it just to give some, it tries to hallucinate and give some creative answers. So most of the coding tasks which I just use as a triple temperature because I need the desired results. But for the grooming art and other things, maybe you can try with the temperature value 0.6 or something. So model is nothing but the model that you configure, GPT, Cloud Code, and everything. And the tools which I mentioned, so the tool section I will cover in the next slide. And the permissions of the tool. So it is like this particular agent, which tools allow. This thing will not be sent as a text to the LLM. This is the most major thing people are confused. This agent internally controls the system. So based on the permissions you configured, it tries to use the particular tool. So other thing is the imperative capabilities. So all the things which we seen in the system from, it's just a text, no technical aspect. It sends the exact data what's the LLM. Imperative coding are mostly a kind of functional aspect, so which will provide a 100% accuracy. So you can't guarantee that hey, I return a good prompt, I get I need to give a 100% accuracy. No, it is just a prompt model is not need to give a 100% result. So, but these kind of things will do. Tools, consider tools just as a function which performs specific tasks. So each tool has its parameter, as I mentioned earlier. So each tool will have a descriptions and it has the input perhaps and output and everything. So these tool informations will be sent to the LLM model by agents, and based on it, it will decide whether I need to call this tool or not. So plugins. Plugins are like plugin is also a tool which is used attach multiple other configurations. Let's say you are maintaining so you're developing a team. You have a common kind of you have configured a common kind of setup and everything. So using plugins, you can plug up the global setup which you have in your local system and use it. So plugins are just to integrate with the external systems and getting the configuration from it. So other thing is the MCP. So I think most people would know about it. So MCP is a protocol which decides how an agent can talk to the model or the thing. Maybe I think time check. I'll discuss with the MCP later if we have time. So built-in tools. So these are the pre-built which our agents should recruit to perform one particular action. So most probably these kind of tools, read, write, pass is for executing shares on apps, and list is for listing the files. Pack I mentioned earlier to get a quick difference of it. So it law and these tools two to read and two to write. So LLM. So whenever you just prompt to the LLM model to perform particular task, it tries to even in build mode, it tries to create a tool to this. So it literally maintains a kind of a small to application where it maintains all to files. So writing to this particular to-do thing is also using this particular course to read and to write. And I think in the websites and websites, in order to call the external websites, we can use these kind of tools. And another is a question tool. User needs, if LLM needs some input from the user, this particular question tool will be triggered and we will be prompted within questions. So LSP, as I mentioned earlier, is about language intelligence. So each language has its own LSP servers, and based on it, it will provide. It is used to indicate that hey, this particular code has compilers and everything. The LSP tool will be do. Task is a tool used to call. So LLM can't use all the agents. So agents are, as I mentioned, just a prompt. So in order to call it, we need some kind of tool. So task is a tool used to call the agent. Similar to skill. Skill is a tool is used to call the skills you have configured. So these are some built-in tools. You can also configure your custom agents, custom tools. So configure the custom agents and custom tools will be discussed by Sathiyaraman and Aravind on the later talk. So guardrails. So guardrails. So that is the confusion at the earliest stage of the agentic systems. So how guardrails are done is they are done in the prompt level. You will just write a prompt like, "Hey, don't do this," and you may expect that LLM should doesn't do it, but it actually not, because LLM doesn't give you 100% accuracy, just a token predictor. So any guardrails, it need to be done under the tool level. So if you have you see permissions in this particular thing. So there is a particular tool called permissions. Whenever any LLM tries to call any kind of tools, this particular permission tool got triggered, and all the requests will be passed through this permission tool. And in the permission tools, you'll be setting the default actions which need to be present. This permission tool decides whether the tool which LLM need to call needs to be called or not. So for an example, say this particular JSON concept tool will be attacked. Nowadays, it is coming under the multi-model reading lipstick. So nowadays, you can see that model is capable to produce a structured output. How it does is LLM model gives the response. So the model, I mean, model is not like LLM model. The multi-model provider is managed itself had some tool called JSON parser tool. It tries to parse the output. If the parsing went wrong, it gives the LLM, okay, this kind of things is not properly configured, and try to regenerate it. And it generated until it gives the exact structured output. The loop will be continuous and the final output will be returned. And the same thing, there will be some limits between these tools, like how much times I need to call it, because it should not be in an infinite loop. Uh, yeah. Conclusion. So based on my understanding, so I based on tweaking this internal, I came to know that how I should use this agent. So one is the balanced level of information sharing from agent. It is not like that I putting the entire code base, putting the entire Atlassian docs which you have into the agent, just putting it whatever you needed at the time. So LLM by default, the agent architecture itself doesn't uses the entire context switch. It fetches the context in the needed purpose. If you refer a particular file, it just uses the particular file and store it. It doesn't store even though if you do some initialization, it doesn't look at the entire code base and do it. It stores only if it required. So like this, while we prompting also information what it requires. Don't put some extra information, it tries to hallucinate. So other thing, as I mentioned, dot rating on tool level instead of prompt level. So there are some situations we also need to add dot rating in the prompt level. So like they follow this kind of solid principles, follow the same. Still, you can create some tools like SonarQube, and you can just configure it to check the ask SonarQube to check whether this particular code follows or something for proper practice or not. Uh, but most of the things we do it, we can do it in the prompt level, because that will be still increase your model agent memory size and everything if you add up more tools. So God really, if you can do it at a tool level, do it in a tool, add a tool for it. Mostly try to avoid prompt level. Another is like developer structure. So it is not like that. I have agent. I have an agent to prompt. I shouldn't follow any other code practices. So no compromises to code practices. So whatever AS and whatever thing that the code which we return should be maintainable. So I used to give a proper structured commits and everything to it. So LLM can give a better results. You can also automate the LLM to create the task, divide the task into multiple subtasks, and consider each subtask as a commit and configure it. So all this, how we can automate it, will be replied by Sathiyaraman. Another thing is focus more on testing and review. So don't ignore like LLM gives large amount of code I can't test and review. Try to do smaller tasks which you can review it, and ask LLM to do other tasks. And in terms of UI level testing, do more tests on it. because the code may be generated by the agent, but you are the person who is responsible to maintain it. So to be aware to provide more work on testing and review. And another thing is reduction is not equal to parallelism or concurrency. So it is like using agent. I can solve the task say which requires 1 day to complete within a 1 hour or not. It does not mean like in the same time I can pick up multiple cards and do whatever things in a parallel. Only if you have a natural talent to do multitasking, do multitasking. So or else you would be get caught. I had lots of questions. So other thing is build systems which are maintainable by human, not AI. So it is not like that AI generating code. It is not like we ask AI to maintain it. So you need to maintain everything. You need to understand what this particular code does and everything you can corner. So build systems that is you can maintain, not an AI can do. So yeah. At last, I was working on a small project. I mean, a personal project or things for Agile under AI. So using to automate entire Agile process using assistant tools. So in this assistant tools, I was not only using the coding assistance tool like Cloud Code or Copilot. So even Atlassian provides some kind of agent. Any systems you are using to manage, they will provide an agent. So my idea is to how we can connect all the agents and automate the entire HDFC cycle. So I was doing a personal project on it. If it works fine, maybe I can give it a talk. So yeah, so that's my talk. So any questions you can? Yeah, yeah. So because the way so as I mentioned earlier, so in the most in the entire slide, so models accuracy may be changed. The prompt query techniques differs. So in VS Code, if you need to call a tool, it needs to spin up a session. Let's say if you need to call a bash tool, so opening a terminal inside the VS Code and running the entire agent in a terminal will be different. Both have a different timelines or everything. So VS Code have a different setup to open a terminal. But in terminal, the way of running dashboards are still faster. So this particular difference creates the difference on using agents. So in the same ways, VS Code has some particular tools to control what it can do or something. It is not like how so agent will be like give some abstract way. Hey, these tools which I have. So in the terminal interface, you can use all the tools. But VS Code doesn't allows all tools to use it. So based on the prompt which you given, VS Code has its own set of tools and it tries to uh, solve operations on it. So particular difference between the interface creates an hallucination between the results. Well, yeah, I think it's time to completely beautiful.
All right. Thank you so much, Khatri, for the on the actual of character. So up next, we shift gear and try to actually move beyond the white coding and understand how to adopt AI in our engineering practice. And for this, we have two brilliant speakers, Mr. Sathiyaraman and Mr. Aravindkumar, who have been like predominantly working on the agent harnesses and try to like experiment on how to leverage AI to its fullest potential in the teams for like all the engineering practices. So they'll be sharing their experiences and be giving us insights on how to do it in a proper way. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Arvind Kumar and Mr. Satyaram.
I'm uh, I'm not there. And it, people that used to sit on that side and used to listen to the talks that people hear really about and Gary and talk and have experiences. So yeah, I think Gary excited me. So I will develop check. How many people use GitHub Compiler as a law? How many people use it regularly? Like you have licenses, but there are people who extends to the user. Okay. Who? How many people try to use multiple agents? Okay, that's give up paper. Anyways, good. I know this is 2026, and I know everybody is familiar with web coding, but I still start with the question: what is web coding? Uh, okay. Honestly, I mean, basically, should as a one it is, right? And new software development approach where you just say uh, what you want to do, and AI will be did for you. So, I mean, the good thing is it's fascinating. Is as it incredibly feels like massive. The bad thing is half of the time you don't know what exactly you're reading. I mean, at least there is a way like where the agent does a lot of things that you can't even sit and wait and come again. So yeah, you will obviously hit a wall when you're doing white coding. For me, I believe in coding that is scale. By coding is on individual. So we do have an example why under the case.
Yeah. So yeah, it started to make sense. So few few months back, we were working on a product where we have to like migrate a UX on what based on the other UX. So it's just we can't be for you. So we are on a Twitter titles. So we were all given open messages and we are asked to speed up the process. So individual developers, we picked up individual stories and our whole goal was to uh, finish the UI revamp as soon as possible. So after that, we that's after that I was picking up tasks in the same UI code. So all I had was to add a column to a table. But since that is why I ordered, I was treated with five nested comments with three customs which I was not able to understand pattern. And I was using a code that they process. I was not able to even one was also not able to understand the code and do something. So in the end, what we did, we were here forced to scrap a code and write everything with sketch. So that what we had lot code occupied with us so that we were able to achieve that awesome. So this this happened because none of us in the deep had a motion with communication between us, and we were like low sales doing what our stuff we felt which was trying to push it to finish it in a time. So you could still have questions. So it is working fine for my weekend project. Why does it scale to a team setting? How can we make it work in a team? That's where this stuff comes in. We are like we have been dealing with AI for a few months, and we have had our hands dirty trying to adopt AI in our teams, so that we can practically use it. So we just try to share our experiences right now, and all of you will take something out. So here's no worry. We have broken down this talk into four parts. First is developers mentioned. So we just take a step back and say we'll talk about what are all the mindships which you have to have as an individual developer before you start working. Next one is we are a coding tech. So we all know that we can use these coding tools to like speed up our individual story progress or the rest order. But what if we can use that stuff outside as well, like in prepare carrying and yeah, stuff like that. Okay. Next is the board review list. We not about it. So we'll talk about how we have been doing PR reviews, stuff like that here. Next one, how your goal will change when AI steps into your team. What are the stuff you have to how like what about how will your typical go from so we'll talk about stuff like that here. And finally we'll finish strong with we appreciate it we we'll have like our outside with other tools as like Copilot Rock. But right now the predominantly we are working on Cloudflare and we will just showcase also that this is like this could be like replicable across all the other use like open port, Copilot, whatever to you name. So we'll just quickly show it and we'll use document. First, the developers mentioned what are all as I said before, what are all the mindset changes that you need to have before starting coding. With A, first, I start off the question. How many of you have shipped code which you didn't understand, which was written by A? How many? Accept this. Other people don't use A or point. The next other they understand. Okay. So, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's like it's very tempting to push the code without you understanding it. It's like the board will just work, but at what cost? A it will feel all nice and sunshine until the code which you wrote took place at 12 and everything. So A will just focus on getting the job that the task which you had to handle later. You don't prioritize okay, you're like making the code secure or like it already with your team's cadences or the team styles coding which you have agreed upon. It just sorts the problem which is immediately at hand. It won't understand about the broader audience. It's you have understand about it and make the journey for you. Yeah. This is the first step which we think everybody should have on them. You are no longer paid to write code, you are paid to deep. So previously, we have our we job like not made, but most of the job we have to write code. Other part of the job like the science stuff. But in the use of AI tools, the advent of this, our main term as predominantly shifted to reading code. You have to have a mindset to read the code which AI generates, which with very critically. So this is the first shift which you need to have in your plan. Next, the problem with AI is not like deterministic. It's not an error header. It is designed to not deterministically answer questions. We as scientists we are we try to expect 1 + 1 equal to 8. But in case of AI, it might say 1 + 1 equal to 3, or it might be 1 + 1 equal to 0, or something like that. The same prompt which you give today might not give the same output the next day. So the implications is you can now fully understand an AI. When you fully trust an AI, every review which you are doing should be treated as a new review. That means you can't build a muscle memory or the agents. Next, we just stop at why reading AI code is hard. So with the teammates, typically you are reading teammates code, you tend to find imperfections in the code, and you can point it out, and you get used to their body style, something like that. But in AI, the code which it generates is very well formatted and very clean. It will be basic for array. But with that is a danger. With the code deep play, too well formatted, you even you have spent more already look into the deeper parts that it could have made some assumptions and it will have missed some things. So it won't give you any zero, it won't give you any other context. Every review which you should do, and it should be in the first minute. So moving on, adding a value this is the body problem. So like for example, Visual A, how much speed as now should learn 6 notes a day, but every day you would ship 2-3 stories per day. But the body problem also accept to this. It can write much faster. It faster than any human reviewer can keep up. So the base of which we develop also outpace the speed with which we compare. So this is the gap. But we could leave out hallucinations and security risks question. So we just talk what about the stuff which we are following. Some lives which we are following to read a report without burning. You have to develop a mental as you have to like have a full scrutiny over the business logic, the security sensitivity, the data and parsings, where the code handles all these. You have to have you don't have you should compromise on these parts. The same value would have a lighter possibilities. So boilerplate codes, scaffolding which and UI. So these are the not that you could like there's a sort of tip which you can follow up with read another a couple of tips which things we followed. when you are really better repeated, just stop doing the it could be doing action. It could be just stop it, crap break, and we come back fresh and start us. And another mistake which we found ourselves to be is whenever we are reading the code, we are trying to uh, we are try to read the code as well as decide whether this code is or should it go in or not. But you should just separate those two. First pass, you can just go through the code, read it to you, understand the code fully. If you don't understand, read it on spot. Read it until you understand. Once you read it, then the board understood it. You can after that you can decide whether you should go in or it should put trash. So that's some tools which here for which you could use. And next is A cannot think for you. Say like if you have a variant and you type the prompt and ask A to do it. It won't hear your voice. You have to have the prompt, have the thought process cut up clearly. So I read myself as an example. Where we got open and SSS first. I was trying to like give a vague prompts, expecting A to like develop cutting his level of code, but it was not the output is which was provided was was very subpar. So it felt like a man can't do, but in reality, it's not. It's just a force matter. You can't have the task cut out in your hand, the top is clear in your head, which you should be able to express that to A to whatever edit you're using, so that it could produce a good part. So that's it. This mindset. You have to have the clarity of thought. It is now an external requirement. You can't like pick up a card, pick up a story, pick up last time. Like we without before AI, we used to write it at we used to figure it out as we prior ID we figure out a refactoring which we put and while living in Gouda, we've been finding some new component of some other function which we could use in the it is related to this to the task so that we could use that. But right now, you have to do all the thinking right in the star master. So, so another test should be like you should be able to write short prompt. If you are not able to make short prompt, it's clear indicator that there is this clear gap in your thinking. You have to work on your thinking. You have to get the steps right, and you have to start it. Next, this is an example of big song. See how the prompt is like fix. Say there is bug in long. It says fix the login. Just fix the login. What it will do by seeing this prompt? It will try to go ahead and treat the whole bugging. It will make its own micro assumptions, and it will try to fix what's the bug in its own. So it in reality might or might not arrive at what the bug or what is bug that you have. But see the short term. It says the login fails relative and email as uppercase characters. The issue is likely in comparison r.servers.ts in live forms. Fix it up without touching the password hashing logic in crypto.ts. See how clear this prompt is. But with this prompt, you are just you know what the issue is. You are just pointing A in the direction and asking it to do the job for you. If you do this, it will take like what 1 hour or something. But with A, it can do it in 7 minutes. That way, you are just speeding up your. It's you're using A as a post multiplier for your thing. Next, this is another important shift I sure.
How much time that will take to write this? Because the prompt writing and then the it is actually going to fix it, right? Again, this
Yeah,
prompt.
this itself you might do that, but like take this kidding. Yeah, sure.
There's just one. It looks like I can go and fix it, right? So I don't need to use AI. If I have to write a prompt this detail,
Yes.
that is actually going to take more time and more understanding.
But if you look at that, there you are able to run a whole story. You take it, if you take it, it will take about 1 hour, 1.5 days. But if you have the task ready, the task cut out in your head, you can just start here to do it, and you can like focus on other stuff which actually matter, like apart from what is the architecture stuff like that. This is a simple example which it looks like if I took another prompt, it will fill up the space. So let's took this. Yeah. Moving on. So we have opted in two with various processes, the brownfield products and greenfield. So I just take an example. What this in this way or what should you should expect in case of greenfield project and a brownfield. So we worked with two projects. So the quarter brownfield was like B2B product, which which offers in the marketing information stuff. Another is a greenfield product, which is the B2B2C, where it was like around of enabling businesses to provide services, and it was like a social platform where we could. So in these two places, the product owners were like our advisors and had to give us a going towards post productivity. So in leafy products, we found out that the A will be given a clean state. The A, or if you ask A to write code on that, it will make its own assumptions, and it will make efficient sorts. So if you didn't if you don't have any alarm conditions and didn't post correct it, those you have even those when when the problem is popped up. But in case of broadband products, A will have a complex ones, but A will have a, a set of code to refer to, and the code it generates will reflect your coding style which you are be following in that uh, in the I will take an example. So in the April project which we worked, there was like the result which we have to do. There are like two results. Both are very similar in function. Like the look and feel of it. You could very well reuse the code. But what we asked A to do that. First result, it did it with it took an approach and did that. When we took it away, the method was working fine, the kind of stuff. And we were where we took another card for to give it a similar categories there. And when we asked it to do it, it took its own decisions. The, there are a lot of this, but we use the code we use which was entered in the previous result, but it chose to like rearchitect the entire result code. The whole was started very different. So we have to spend a significant time to to reuse the code so that the board is beaten. So if you are just merge those two codes, in these two results which could have been stars of code which would have been made in the future would have been would have been very would have been helpful also later on to make. So general rule of thumb which we follow in early stages of a BD development, right? Make sure that you write the formations by yourself instead of letting A who stop for me. The next one is like a small tip which no, you should just know you do put it. So where A is included. So it is good to generating boilerplate, cut, you doing cut, you will test repackaging documents. A excels it. But for judgment based like system architecture system, security design, domain logic, not a this debugging, A is troublesome. This is where you as a developer or a solution manager or whatever you have to step in and use make your decision. Yeah, that brings the first part to the process. Next, A beyond coordinated. So before going in, we'll this is like remembering the same point. Your A will do all this. You as human engineers, you have spent your cognitive load on domain logic, edge cases, business giving, and RNX decisions. So without this, me every hour parent would do every hour engineer spends writing boilerplate is an hour spent on what actually is an hour not spent on what actually waste the company. And so this should be the clearest or away which you should take when A comes to a T context. Yeah. So I'll just present this refinement by which we are following to gather requirements and right from gather requirements to implementing those requirements as features. I hope this is described. The rock speed. It's not. Okay. So I just explained it. So first, it's just you have a feature ready. There is this stage one where you should ask A. Okay, I'll explain. So in this stage, you should ask A to interrogate yourself before you. I'll put each steps. Go to these steps immediately and explain. Into at the end of this step, you will have a pitch and in your so this could be a big pitch you have in your and you can review it. You can ask the area to define it. Once you feel it's good, you can approve it and move on to the next stage. Where you should with this feature document, which space you should you can break that down into epics and stories where it will provide like this is the routine process which you have to pick. Can you also use AI to break it up for you, like giving the respect and task it to break it down. And next, you have to review all these stories. one by one and see if it makes sense for you, and it hires you more than the requirements you got. And if once you approve it, you can like take the next, you move those case 3 where you have to take every story and you have there will be the story will have it could be a typically approved story, or you would have something like a stories make of like just a spec doc. I hope people are aware about spectrum development of spec kits. Anybody not a sure good. So with in spec you can generate a plan, and once you review and refine the plan, you can give it to AI to execute that. So this the so this the like, the first IIS has been use AI to stress test your thinking. Give your dates, give your the picture idea and make AI to ask questions. So these questions should be like edge cases, which the AI should ask questions like edge cases. Not I mean failure bots. They're not based ones, which you might not even have thought about it. As an output, you will be getting a performance which will tell you what you are building and why you are building. The tool doesn't matter. You can adopt this in every tool. We have been using Cloudcore in our setup, so you get all this in any tool. It's like beyond that like a command in our setup. And next one is you should break the barrier, not the past. This is like a typical example where we are operating our career starting career. So we have to break down stories which will provide a value to the edX. So for example, creating an API, splitting a UI form, or it's like setting up a database schema, or not like these are tasks. Users shouldn't be given those tasks. They should be provided in the story which actually provide value with them. They should see the value. So and you can also and you can also ask AI to put dependency map underneath these stories, so that like how you will be managing your problem. You can connect GitHub board or Jira board or ClickUp or something like that with your AI data. Use AI to push those stories in there. So moving on next, the third stage, using AI to uh, we take a story bed and using AI we generate a plan and review it. And if you are done, you can ask the AI to interview it. So what do you have? Yeah, one you have here agent agent plan. You have the our agent to evaluate only you are strong that the plans are fine and keep this is what I know. So we with this, I just go we have a small knowledge of this setup which we have been speeding. I'll just quickly show you. So this is like oh, Satyaraman. App. Okay. Uh, So this is like a small e-commerce platform which we were created using cloud just for this demo purpose. So you can like it's just a simple Next.js application with Express backend with SQLite as a DB. So this is here. Notice this is like this is the product page, but notice we have hard coded these ratings here in the database for just for the demo purpose. But notice there is no there is no way for a user to give ratings or reviews. So we will try to implement this feature. So there is something called as interview command in our cloud mode. We'll start up cloud mode. It is visible, right? The last one. Is it visible now? Yes. So I'll just go ahead and do invoke the interview plan command which I have. So this could be like this is like nothing but the custom prompt which you generate. You can adopt this in any tools like say Copilot or Person, whatever you have. You can most of the tools provide a custom way to a way to provide custom command suite. So we'll just invoke this interview plan. We have written this so that if you have any big idea, you can put that in a file and give it to it. But I just, if you don't know the file, it will just ask you, you have to step, and it can take them from there. So I'll just start it. I'm not giving any file here. I start it. It will start asking me what feature I should. I'm in a repeating print. So it says there is no. So I say new feature for Shopper. Shopper is the app name. So meanwhile, this could take a couple of minutes. So while here, it could explore the. I can take questions while this is doing work. So I'll say, so since this is creating me with these options, because we tried it out in the demo, so it has that in the context, and uh it's treating me this. So the feature I wanted to build is product reviews and ratings. I'll go ahead and choose this option. Yeah, so it now started to explore the code base. It could take some time. So I could take a couple of questions until this does. It is next. If you have any questions, you can ask more.
It was saying the product owner impact to it. The developer can talk and how understand it.
So that's what I mean. That's what I said.
That's nice actually.
I mean, yeah, we have an example, like we did this ourselves in the product which we were working on. So there with this is the marketing automation platform. So there people could create their work on that, and they could push out, and people, the marketing people, could take that and we use that for their marketing purpose. So uh, there were like canals like the blogs and even something like this. There are like 3-4 kinds. And the feature which we had to implement was case study. Something like it should have a defined structure, and so it's similar to block, but it should have different structure defined in the UI, and backend needed some changes apart from it. So what we did is we had this we use this we were like a team of three. We down 3 developers, and we had a project group. We sat together, use this interview command, so that it was asking us a lot of questions. So what we could have took the product owner like 2-3 days to generate the required document. We were able to get this in an hour of the interview. So yeah, so now and this is explored the code base, and it started asking questions. So if this is a complex code base, like the code base which I don't know if you want, the interview plan is needed by implementing this feature. It took about 1 hour for us to finish this interviews. But since this code base is very like for demo purposes, it will ask certain small questions, and it will move on. So now I'll just I'll just start answering this question. So say it doesn't know either user authentication. So we have kept it interested that way. So it is asking me what should I use to identify the user? How the review of the should work? So you can like look at the options, see what works for you, or if you want to give something else, you can go and text. So this is like Cloudcode's way of leaving that, but you can adopt this in Cobalt. So this that's a tool which ask user question. It's called an ask user question or something like that. If it in case of Cobalt, I don't think it has a tool. You could ask it to like put on all the questions in the market where are you product. You could take a look at it and have another modern phase which you feed that and answer. So it's just the tool, the implementation, but the idea is just it. So I'll just go here and choose this. I want to identify user using name plus email account. Say whenever you are providing review, you should just give an email and it should identify user. And next one is see, we had the CD data. It took it looked at the code and it is asking should I wipe the CD data and should I recalculate? I'll just ask it to wipe and recalculate, and I'll submit it. So now it asks me the first set of questions, and it will again ask me some non-obvious questions. So we wait for it. Yeah, and see, it is asking since email is used for duplicate, should the user be limited to one review per product per email, or they can update or replace their existing review. So I didn't say this. It was it by itself asked the question. So I'll just go ahead and say one review can edit, one review per email product. And what should be the format of the stars execution. So I didn't say that it should be a stars or like 1 to 10. it understood from the code base which we have, the static data which we seeded in the list. It understood from that. It drew a difference and it's asking me this question. I'll just say stars plus text and then more. Yeah, meanwhile in between gives regard. Yeah. Okay. Now we talked about the email flow, right? So now it's asking the question based on answers we give. So we gave email should be the unique identifier. Now it's asking on the flow, how should they should prove that they want it to be. It's just I mean it's asking questions based on answers we give. I just choose email re-entry. Like if you re-enter the email, there is a review, it should come up and display. Where should I display it? These are like standard questions which you could ask. And that's so again, if you have any questions, I could take them in this video. Yes.
So you talked about fixing bugs and the code standard. Yes. If we have cop for 10 bugs, now instead that fix the code standardization and for bug fixing, we have testing frameworks like Playwright and connecting with various in fixing that sequentially.
Yeah, I'll answer about the the roots are different. So it's I'm talking about not just about the coding styles, the digital design. Say for example, I talked about a visit in my example. So I was just maintaining a single state to know at what state the visit is, but the next subsequent visit I pivoted, it didn't go that way. The state was staying added by the user and owners. I was like, send a state. The answer is till what extent you'll be ready for it. Yeah, sure, you put that on it, but how much will you be able to put? How much will you put in the sorry. If you should try to put, you could have it by like 10,000 lines and you could block up. So you have to draw and like, where should I stop and where should I? What is the next question? The testing, the testing. Yeah, you could do play as such. We are tried that you spare and you could we are tried it too. So we didn't think that other. So you could have already
I want to go back to previous subject to take some of the
yeah, I think this is that's the problem with cloud. So while we were doing the investigation in our part itself, we had to like click on chat about this and it will spin up a separate subchat and we have to expect you have to change the decision. But say if you're doing with the markdown file, you can like type it and you can review it however you want and you could do that. So it's just tool specific implementation. The principle will always be the same. And moving on, it is asking me questions about the review submission, reviewing the submission. So should it open a separate view or not? I'll just ask it to. Hmm. Right. Which one yes.
Yet what I have tried to do is I have written subject then give it when
Yeah, you can do that. So this command we have to design in a way that
you should know this command was open file.
yeah this P came. So you could ask it to read from a file and ask no questions from it. Or you look at a file. You could just simply know this and you describe what you have, how it is made, and get started with that. So it all depends on what you want. So if you have some idea in mind, we could might as well put that in a file and it will provide more context to the or you'll have to like give 1 or 2 legs of whatever the requirements you have and you can get started. It's just about giving the context where you are giving the context. And I'll just say choose an answer like where should this review be? It should be on inline on product. It's not listing the impact. Should the product listening field show any review summary beyond the existing standard? So I'll say no changes for add a minimum rating filter. And I'll move on. So I think we fast traverse these questions. So and the main goal is to show the features like I quickly go the questions and we can talk after that. So it is asking me how should there be a rating is breakdown. I don't want any visual breakdown. I just need it to be displayed. And when a user gives a rating, I should recalculate on writing it. So what are the it's asking me question? So what are the validations and the rules? Yeah. So I guess just go ahead with basic validation. And it's asking what page it is. I'll go 10 per page. So it looks like I'm just choosing the first question because like the code base is not that complex, but in larger code bases, it will ask questions and you have to significantly expand it in minutes. So that's all took about an hour at finishing this, doing this. And when a user enters an email that already has reviewed once, it should auto delete an email on email. So I just do the show name only. I just now I've given it should show the name. I think it should ask me the question, where should I get them? Let's see if it asks.
So currently, it's a possible.
This is Cloud's model. Yeah, the command which we have is like is in the dot model now. It's just model itself. The model itself is in Cloud. Whatever the rule you put, it is poster model. You if you want to run, you can run, but it will consume your nothing on here. You have research question. So it's just asking me now question about API design. It should since the review will be related to products. I choose to nest it under the products API input itself and timestamps. I just go with absolute dates, like showing the timestamps. As you can see now, it's going to question ask me questions about edge cases. When I have 0 reviews, what should be the review section? So it should just say encouragement message. That's it. And for minimum rating builder on product basically, what UI patterns I want? I want the star buttons. That's it. And yeah, when should the fetch happen? I'll just go out with the separate fetch so that the page loads faster. And design. What should be the design? I'll just choose it to mask, like choose it to match the existing style. Yeah. Should the seed script generate some reviews or should the app data out? So I'll just say start empty and duplicate check. Where should it happen? I'll ask it to filter from the existing. Then let the validation happen in front end. Let's keep sleep. Yeah. Yes. It locked and it got reset. Enter, but what's it? Or existing so sending emails to the front end should we resolve this? I'll just for the sake of it go ahead with include email in the API, but don't run. Yeah, so now it got answers for all the questions. It's compiling it use pick up and we'll be able to see its picked on. Then about I don't think. Yeah, so when I tried from the it asked me, but I don't know, it might have in its context. So I feel it's not asking. Yes. So that's why I told AI is not deterministic. It can pick whatever. Yeah. Any other questions where I didn't start? So any more? How this will purpose as the it people as by see let's say there will be already built ratings. The we try to build the same thing as faster. Yeah, you could build it, but how we how well it should fit it will fit in your your app, and you will be following it. I definitely accept it won't be a test, but if you wanted to you could app you could might as well to use So if you have any lovability, if you find any lovability, rating system with some modification, you can find it and give the obstacles and ask for any place in that to iterate. So it's not like we are not saying like, can use features from the group. You can ask it to like you can use it for iterations as well. This is create come up with the document. I'll accept it and we can go ahead. Yeah, so it came up with the aspect document with the database schema. Yeah, with the technical aspect, with the database schema, and what are the indexes it should do, and what are the API endpoints it should do. It should write, and the request body of it, the validation it should validations which should be in this, and the behavior of the endpoint, and what are the responses it should generate, and the request body is a sample request body for the front end as well. So it came up with an interface as you might as well you can configure this to have code or not have code. That's up to you. So this is just for the demo purpose which we chose to have here, and it also went till next of uh, showing putting methods as well, methods in here as well, and it has a bunch of text about the behavior of it and stuff like that, and it has listed down the edge cases as and the test what are the test cases it should write as, and some implementation notes based on the questions it had. So this is how you can review it and choose to refine it and use the same document, giving this document, we just refine it. But I'm choosing to go with this just for time book. Now we have, I'll go with the breaking the stories part.
Whole session.
Okay, this one. Yeah, sure. Now I'll go. We have another custom command which is called as breakdown stories. Now I just invoking it without giving any spec document. It will go and look for the specs. So these are custom commands which we
Oh, we already.
it's just like when we ask it to like, say you are a senior product engineer which who is yeah we in ask it to it's just whatever prompt which you could find. Take for example we found like Google awesome Google items or something. You will feel able to find items which already have some commands like this. You can take it and share him like what
Dude, share command. Already tested.
yeah, it will be there, but it won't be work. It won't be like same for every place. So you have to take it and see what are about for you, configure for you.
The start.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
At the same time, they use something else is actually a red option because you understand your case better. Nobody understands it better. I don't understand how this would trade. Yeah, for us to build these commands, what we actually did is they were kind like we were using plot code as like we didn't configure anything at all. It was just plain vanilla plot code. We just used it for like colors of month, and then we understood what are the gas that we have, what are the things that we are doing repeatedly, and how can we simplify it. That's where we uh, started to write commands and stuff, which actually reduces the repetition. For example, the breakdown stories. You might actually prompt it manually by saying, okay, uh, this is the spec, let's break it down this way. We just try to do this, take these. So we used to do that manually. Then you will figure out, okay, this is a recurring pattern. You are doing it repeatedly. And we move this into a useful prompt, which is basically a drop command. And then use the let's go. It's basically a reusable prompt. We can actually open it up.
Yeah, I will. What is the generation? Yeah, just show those commands, those files. Honest the word command. I was like thinking, did you write the programming to do that too? Yeah, that's right.
I know it is. I'm not.
That's not personal.
This is just a prompt.
So it listed all the ethics for me, and say it's like it found two epics to be reasonable. So rating driven product discovery and another is the product and discovery. There is a discussion. So the first one deals with the end-to-end review life cycle, submitting to entity. Next one is leverage real review data to improve the product. So it identified two epics and it's asking me, is this okay for you? Should I go? I'll click okay for the time and save time. Yeah. Now it's detailed in me stories. So for this demo, we have chosen to have these stories in the local as a markdown phase, right? But in reality, we have a configure to use. We actually GitHub project. You can we are configured to execute GitHub commands and stories to the project. You can configure it for Jira, applicable using the MCP script or create node any. You can configure the agent to push that there. So I'll just for the sake of it, I'll just click on looks good and move epic to. Yeah, it's giving me to. Yes, it's just two stories. I'll go ahead and find this. So it's writing that in the docs folder stories. So if you notice, it figured out the dependencies as well. So this story, which is to story 2.2, it says it's blocked by story 1.1 as well. So we are using any if really the product was which you use, it could also do that if the NCP server of CLI provides you that via that capability via the NCP or whatever the interface is they expose for these areas. Meaning versus to text like that. It will say so now if I go there, it's groomed every story, the user story, the acceptance criteria, the technical notes, and what all the implementation. So you could choose to have this or after a spec kind of thing for a story, whatever works for your team. You have to review all this. Yeah, I have to review the idea is you have to review, but I'm just doing it for the purpose. Just uh, go ahead. Yeah, sure. That could not happen. Yeah. So right now I'm just putting it in every in single stream. You can choose it to like configure however you want, however works for you. So this is how the stories breakdown as up. So we have the in our dropper the last release yeah we will show you about how we can implement. So I'll just quickly skip to the slides. Okay. So yeah. I mentioned like just another tip which we have which we are giving our opinion. So there are like a lot of pieces. We finally not talking about those people and all stuff. So each and every model should be have its own strengths and things. What reason is uh, explore with models and develop about what is good for what. So for example, there okay, we have this like the GPT models, general OpenAI models are the executing the targeted task or step-by-step task which you give. But in general, we find that shit for doing it usually kind of do then writing stuff. And in case of cloud models, it thinks a step ahead and like it will ask you questions like how we saw that it is asking uh, it's thinking a step ahead and it's asking tricky questions or like not based questions. So we ask you which to play around with models and develop an opinion and on what model is what good for what. Moving on, we talked about we there is a spec and a star right, in this process. Why should we not skip a step? So there is a reason we can go ahead and like just give a spec or give the car send it a car idea, give it to why these two exist. That's the reasoning which we have. The spec requires a divergent thinking. You should like think broadly and explore it, and you should be questioning stuff to come up with a spec document. But with the plan, you should have artisan thinking, should be focused, precise, and sequential. These two are different cognitive stars, and these are different cognitive and the separate. If they are separate, you'll be able to get it better. So yeah, you could just give it spec and go out plan, right? You what are if that happens. So if you give spec, agent will just we can make its own architectural research and get away with it. You won't be able to catch it right away. You'll be able to only catch it only when the code is there and if you finish it and review the code. So that you have to reflect or your niche. That's gain a cost because it didn't give you any product. What if you give just to art? It might be technically correct, but it could be solving the problem. It's just so this is just introducing a introducing a two-step check part. These are a two-step check parts which where you could review yourself and see uh, see if I'm doing the right. This is just this is two check parts before the expensive work begins. Right, which is ready. So yeah, with that I hand it over to Satyaram. He'll talk over for review.
Thanks for the brief demonstration. Yeah, uh, we are going to tell you the third part, which is of code reviews. I'm going to start with a little bit controversial today. Like before that, I just quick eyes of plans. How many people do argue peer reviews? Alex, for all if guys are when being little controversial. Uh, I know peer is going to be the huge bottleneck when it comes to your own idea, SDLC cycle. I can time to write so that there is another lot of time which is spent on the review work. Uh, so yeah, what if we can actually reduce it? Yeah, we can reduce it. That's the point. So if you are heavily investing on AI to speed up your software delivery, you don't really need extensive peer reviews from your peers. That's what I'm going to say here. Say if you write, if you let AI to write like 5x times faster and the code sits in a PR for 3 days, then it's like you don't have any return on investment of using AI at all. So uh, but at the same time, there are people who won't find it controversial because they might be doing bad programming using. So in general, in parallel, you don't really need PI reviews because once you have one person to actually write code, you have another person to actually review it in real time, which means you don't really need peer reviews. Your your code is already solved because the other person is actually seeing it. When you're using AI, you're already programming with it. So basically, the AI is writing code for you, and how you are actually reviewing the code that AI is actually generating. So do you really need VR reviews there as well? I don't really think so, but at the same time, we are very skeptic about what the or what AI actually generates, right? So can't really skip VR image, but you are at the same time, it's taking far of time. So what do you? Uh, I suggest this. You can do the first pass with the AI and then do risk adjusted human reviews. What I mean by that is like first time you will start with the at first pass with AI agent. It might be a local agent or it might be anywhere, but the point is you give almost like zero request. So you start with zero context. Sometimes you might have to give the business context, but you don't give the odd context in the issue itself. You don't give why you chose area right. It's like somebody is seeing it your PR without any much inputs from it. So bring that. And we also give enough code style guides, something you rules.mp, cloud.md, agents.md, that. So once you have that there, the AI applicator, and then you basically ensure that your the AI agent, which actually does the peer review for you, doesn't have the author bias. If you're using the same session that you use for the article and after to review there, you're basically bringing that other bias. So the whole point of this step is to not bring that author bias. So something like creating a new entire session and let it do the review for the code that you have in your working staging area in your logo. That had actually, this is not the only solution we have. We can use any other AI review tools. They are already do that for it. For example, CodeRabbit, GitHub Copilot, Puppet like AI Browser. There are a lot of options now. So you can do that. And the next, let's go to the second part, uh, which is about human reviews. So when it comes to human reviews, you just need to ensure one particular thing. Is it really necessary for this PR to be reviewed by? You just need to analyze the risk of that PR. That's the only criteria you have. So if it's going to be a low risk PR, this means that it's going to have just boilerplate, just some scaffolding, minor changes that people don't really need to care. You can actually skip it. Some BS which involves like very critical business logic. I mean, most of the people they have most of the core BI is mostly business logic, but still there are absolute critical ones that you have to give you from BR, like from another person. So this is a whole that's the issue I say. And if you take peer reviews, what should the film? So if you totally eliminate peer reviews out of the picture, then you are basically whiteboarding alone in a silo, which means yeah, you don't know what exactly other people are thinking in your team. You're basically losing out the other perspectives that might actually lead you to see things that you might miss. So to avoid that, that's why you have peer reviews. But if you go to human peer reviews, there is two primary purposes, I believe. First one is category bias, but it's only 50% of the peer review. The rest 50% is about knowledge share. So I mean, when you start with code, the entire team would agree with one architecture. Okay, here's the problem. How do I solve it? And people will come around, they debate, and they'll agree with the architecture. And then one or two person is going to write the code. But once they write the code, if you're doing peer, is the person who release the code, they upset it. Who is written, she get it, then they got it. The architectural decision that people together too. So that's what the Alex has concept pictures. Yeah. So which means is it you might say this looks like your normal peer is what's different in that. That's why the critical part counts in this. So we need human here is to ask following questions. So not the exhaustive ones, but these are some of the important ones. First thing, is it aligning with your architecture? And the second thing, is it actually solving your user's problem or the given issues problem statement? And third thing, is the rest of the team is able to understand this? There might be cases your LLM really, really smart code that people don't understand and the AI itself won't understand and starts from an empty context. So these are the three things you have to ensure when you are doing the BI. This is one. Next one I think is something. I just want to quickly say when I say PI user. So this is about like if there is a case when you create a really big PR and give it to a person and after to review it, they might be like overwhelmed with the amount of code that they have. For example, the volume problem that runs the drive initially. You generate a lot of code, it will be too overwhelming for the person to review. So if that happens, basically having the reviewer to get a lot of fatigue. So they can't really have. And this is one problem meme I found. Like you write 10 lines of code, people will be there getting 10 issues, but if you write 500 lines of code, you'll be there. Absolutely different. So yeah. Comfortable. So yeah. That's why thing is, even if you are doing LLM based development, when you are basing trias, be nice if based trias and stacked in manner. Something like you will basically create instead of creating one big BR, be churned into smaller BRs that are partially shared one over another. That might actually help with people reviewing it. So yeah, if you are going to do these reviews, especially it's just going to be using critical business logic. So yeah, and what are we looking for? So we'll be looking for these next. Yeah, Richard, is it definitive from the architecture? If it's affect for as a team, you have to check if there is any security black spot. There may be case like this is one good example, very lame one, but step you create the home page and you have a login page for it. Except you can still go to the browser directly with the home page and go into without doing bar. So match part. So this is one example. I know it's there, but yeah, uh, you get a plot. So next one is about horizontal dependencies. I think with increasingly good models coming to play, this might be not a big problem at all, but just something that you have to look for. You might your CA evidence might early cast it. Still, uh, so yeah, and next topic is a little bit more important. This is about your ownership and responsibility, which is about you can actually blame a compiler to for causing a bug, and you can actually blame an AI for causing correction of page. It's about the who owns the code now. Just because like you used AI to actually write it, can't say AI wrote it and say and then I walk away. So that's the point I'm trying to picture. So AI is actually an incredibly fast copilot, but you are still the pilot to come. And one more thing is who actually prompts it and who actually agrees and merges it. They are actually responsible for the code that goes into your main branch or master branch, whatever. So that and that concludes your PIV section. And there is a final part of the now. So this is the whole role of the engineer in your team when AI comes into play. So previously, what happens is you use like a lot of code yourself, and now it's actually changing. Things like Copilot and other stuff, they came in and they basically made the process of typing code to be more faster and it's like they have been commoditized to the point that they are very trivial. So that and from there we are out moving away from being writers of code and to be the editors and reviewers of the code. There are days where you actually have a plot to generate bunch of code, but you go through it and you might suggest edits or might do edits on yourself. That's that's all possible. Now you don't really need to spend your time in writing each and every line and focusing on like the syntax is there. You don't really to care about it. A can't do that. So which means now your responsibility is more about like is the board is good overall and is it actually adhering to the architecture that it previously already? And now with this, your engineering is shifting towards understanding the system architecture that you are currently working on and your ability to read and comprehend large cases. Like really there are cases that you might start as you might be having a smaller repo and you might be working on that. You might easily understand, okay, there are a few friends and you understand it. If it goes to be like a larger one, then you really need to have the ability to read uh, large corpuses. And sometimes it's like they do people do follow online Ajay aims to actually read every code that is being pushed to Nina social and for the ownership of that's a very good practice to be honest. And finally, you have to understand that this is requirements deeply because without your understanding, you can actually read it and you actually do a lot of hallucinations. So hallucinations in the sense that once you do hallucinations in the recurrence level, even if you get the boredom level right, solver will be the based on your wrong recurrence. So that's very critical. So yeah, and one more thing about what changes in your teams is like the domain knowledge. Previously, we just have the domain knowledge right within our team, and yeah, so that's what it is about. Firstly, now AI was every programming languages are on the internet. So that's the and but AI can understand what is your why do you have a particular edge case in your particular in your big old legacy application. It can't understand that. It needs to get the context from the people. So and most importantly, it doesn't understand if there may be cases where it would say let's do this additional thing as well because if we do that it will be more nice, but the reality is you can't it's more of a risk and you can't accept the risk. It's basically like you have a risk tolerance in your in your product that you can actually work beyond that. So yeah, it it can't understand what is your risk tolerance, and it can't understand some really specific variables that users might have. It can't really wear the shoes and healthy work. Uh, so this information needs to be captured and continuously as the time goes. So this is where you have to set up something called a knowledge base. Uh, this knowledge base is where it becomes it's basically a documentation for both you for as a team as well as it could act as a documentation for the AI as well. Once you have the domain knowledge in place, what is we going to do next? Collaboration. Uh, so if if you're not bad programming on syntax in a code, how do we collaborate? So this is what is happening when we shift from pairing on code to swarming on design. Uh, we are basically trying to encourage more about like so what happens is like when you are working in a team, previously you have the requirement coming into picture while you are getting the story, but it won't be fully filled up, and then you have to work on it. Start work on it anyways, and then you get the requirements as you work on. There might be cases like that. How you have to plan everything well ahead. So you have to let people to come together and heavily debate on what is the architecture, what is the things that you have to solve in the first place. You have to bring in all of your engineers, your product managers, importantly your stakeholders, and do a debate and do an discussion and get the recommends right. So the iterate command that Aravind showed you previously, that is one actual use case where I can do that. For example, there was this one particular story which we just had a later, and we could have done the interview ourselves and get on the curves there, but uh, so we do did something different about that. So we had the stakeholder to sit with us and work on the interview. So we were getting the inputs from the stakeholder in real time, and we prefer the spread. The stakeholder didn't had any document or anything that just had and got the comments that you may wonder like, why why is why this way, but there was another conversing experience. So where we had in the other project where we had the stakeholder to give a document which is really auto-generated by Claude, and we were basically asked to build one top of it, but the requirements were totally hallucinated. We can recognize it, but we can't really build on top of it. So we had to go back to uh, our stakeholder. So in that case, we did have marker. We had done those things there. So that was that uh, trigger point where we wanted to still make this process. That's where the interview comments come. Interview comment came into picture. So yeah, and also once you have the architecture and data models started out, now you can have the individual engineers to go individually and start working on it and generate the board at like each. So yeah, and yeah, that's companies that are collaboration. Also, there's one more important thing you have to something like that. If you are using Arabic air tools in your teams, it's better to actually have a budget chat where you actually share your good things about AI and bad things about it. Basically, like just because people give you an AI tools and ask you to update, you can't really go and do it. There are people who have their uh, own people might be very what do you they might be very attentive. There might be people who are very skeptic, and you can't expect everybody to just go with the AI rules on day one and deliver it faster. So this is where you have to build a real culture where engineers can come and share their best prompts openly, and that I'll you can let the you have to bring a culture where people can admit where AI led to an rabbit hole. There might be cases where you almost look like it almost looks like it solves a problem, but it doesn't. It just tip you off into a different direction. So it's yeah, actually put charity and most importantly, let AI talk up what they want. For example, Sanjay, who was actually a skeptic, he was given plot code, but he didn't really use it from day one. Suddenly, out of nowhere, when he was pushing open code on his personal time, he just found up it's very nice and started looking good. Let the AI to win over people. Let the AI to actually win over those the skeptics. That's how you can add the AI adoption to fully come into your team. And most importantly, this is one thing I observe. Uh, when AI comes into picture, your execution is like very fast. Previously, you have weeks of execution, and then you have time to postcard that communication. You might ask like, the miscommunication is basically on the fault of like getting that requirements. The stakeholder might be saying one requirement and using that data as a other one. But now, with execution gets into hours, uh, you have 5 minutes understanding what you got detected within art. So yeah, software. Uh, so yeah, this is where now you have to care about your users and you have to care about your domain knowledge in your team. That's how your team can work better. So yeah, uh, and it has been that is most particular about this meme. I just found it interesting. So there was a time where I was using AI and I was feeling like I have been given a magic wand and I can solve anything. Then I realized, what if AI is taken away from me, and what will I be? So there was this question I personally had, and that's where I start. There was a time I stopped using AI daily and had to go through the grind for a few days to understand what I am actually capable of. I just want and I want to share that with I mean, that done is that session, and now let's go to flower setter. Yeah, it's demo part right now. So I'll quickly switch to the previously created ones. Uh,
So speak about collaboration. Typically, the whole agile, I don't know, data status speaking, they come because people don't come to collaborate. And that's the whole reason. And that truly distributed team, the whole thing of agile, event ceremonies are actually not to force people to come to those sessions, right? And you have to be able to, them, right? But this is like actually a nice thing. Heavily debate on the architecture, data models, and education. But I'm maybe Sahaj doesn't. But I'm just curious, right? Have you tried it, or is it like a it's a nice to have thing, or is it really possible? Just a curious question putting on the table, right? I don't have answers to, but I would love that to happen. You have to AI at the after it, right?
so I mean, we actually tried it. So there was this time where we were mentored by another person here. He was actually a long time Cloud Code user, so he was mentoring with the Cloud Code, and he actually suggested us to work when you are doing this intro, just sit together as a team, then do it all together. Even better, you just have your stakeholder as well. So he was suggesting that, and we tried it out. We were like very skeptical. Each of us can actually work on the work this way, so it's just for just for doing a single interview, just for a single person. Why do you really need to bring the team? End of the day, only one person is going to work on that car. Why do you really need to bring the team together? But it was actually a good experience because they were, say, for example, if I'm doing the interview, there are cases what I haven't thought of, and the people who are with me during the interview process, they were suggesting more. They were even providing some really good contradictions that I should account for while doing the interview. For example, there might be cases where there's a phase I'm actually there is actually it's already there. I can't reuse it, but it pick up it. But yeah, LLM asked me, and I was like in mixed minds. They might, and on me, I believe there is a potential that we can have it as a separate page altogether. I think the duplication is fine here because I can evolve on this one. I had my own reservations, but the other people have different opinions, which actually made sense. So that collaboration, that actually is it's actually nice. It actually helps you with getting the requirements. Once you get the requirements later, you can actually work on your own. So we actually tried it, and that's why I
With some mistake that at whatever since from going on now. That's what we see.
That's one of the best point I was to share. I still asked it because it really how much is possible. Teams either I don't think it's possible. So that so that so I'm accepting that policy. And that's it about he
So he what you do is like big stuff. The people who are like in the version that you just recommend and get up to that matter. So it's just whatever works for your team, you have to figure it out. So for us, it's a smart team and our on stakeholder. Either or side or sit.
it took about 40 to 50 minutes, but it was a lot better.
so let's
Time lunch.
I haven't tried it because I didn't have a solid use case for using. One solid use case I can see is having lenders to run groups, but I haven't actually explored it. I haven't explored that space yet. Yeah, I think I can. Let's go to the demo part because yeah. So let's go to our demo here, Devday demo, and yeah, this is a not clock holder. And never mind these two files; these are just your settings files. These two are a little bit important, and we have a bunch of commands. Commands are basically your uh, reusable prompts. And for example, let's say we go to the interview plan. This is how the plan actually looks. You give a description of what is the plan is about. You might have an argument hint, and sometimes you can actually force the model to pick one particular LLM. So, for example, we use Opus here, and yeah, so we just have your regular prompting stuff with some next XML folder. Uh, so this is how the prompt looks. Your output format is basically about like getting a finance presentation. In one of our projects, what we did is instead of coming with a like a single specification file, we wanted to break it down into separate files. For example, there are multiple users for that particular project. So there are different personas to it. So we had different documents for different personas. So for example, there might be a person called a content creator, the market automation tool that we spoke. They would have a separate flow together. Then maybe a person who called content manager, they have a different flow altogether. So those are actually captured in different documents instead of with one big chunk. So he, this is a generic entry plan, but he kind of modified it to better suit that project. So that's one thing. And we have and the breakdown stories here. So if you're wondering what exactly it is doing, so it is assuming it's a senior manager and technical lead, uh, especially specialized in breaking down into speeches into epics and stories. And yeah, you have get to read in the phase one, and then in phase two propose epic structure, and in phase three create integer stories. Phase four review the complete breakdown with dependency graph. Uh, so this is all it is about. By the way, this one can be heavily switched, like heavily modified for different projects. For example, for smaller projects, you might go use different small tools called Peaks. Have you ever heard about Peaks? That's a really nice tool, but it's more specific towards cloud code. Can use for other CLX, like other student cases. Haven't tried it for thanks, man. So that's about it. Uh, where for that for people who are using GitHub in our both projects, we use GitHub. So what we did is the first project when we are using Copilot, we actually use GitHub MCP server to actually go to the project and create issues for us. When we moved to Cloud Code, found out that instead of using GitHub MCP server, it is actually better to use GitHub CLI. Uh, Using GSCLI was actually very fantastic in that case. I don't know if it's due to Cloud Code being optimized to use CLI tools more, but she was actually working so well that we have never bothered about having GitHub MCP server for Cloud. We just have GitHub CLI set up in our machine. It just goes to create issues and stuff automatically.
One point is, I don't like this. It's rubber thing. So like if that say courses here, I keep we were speaking that it's better to go much here because MCP will load all the tools and it would kind of load up your context. So you see a CLI will be better. So it's
So that's about it. I and I haven't worked with Jira, so I'm not fully sure of what exactly would be happening there. But I think there will be another MCP server for Jira. I don't know whether there is a CLI for Jira in the case, but if there is a CLI for a particular tool, I would suggest to use the CLI predominantly because MCP means you end up loading your context window analysis in sometimes. If it's a CLI, Claude can actually go and try the CLI's help and get the information itself and try to navigate through it automatically. So instead of providing the like full context IR, it's like it takes them whenever you need it. And that's where your next comp, which is skills. We haven't set up any skills in this project, but the idea of skills is you you have some information, but that needs to be like provided only on demand. You can put it in skills. Uh, I know people are packing a lot of documentation into skills and provide it. Uh, we haven't done that, but we did a different use case on in one of our projects. What we did is so we we had actually in trouble with using JCLI to create issues, but putting them in the projects. So we were using GitHub projects. GitHub projects, the primitives of GitHub projects are not ready accessible in CLI. So whenever we ask Claude to do it, what it does is it uses uh, GraphQL, the GitHub's GraphQL to go and do stuff in GitHub. So to simplify it, what we did is we created a command. Uh, we, we created a bash script which actually goes to GitHub, fetches those project details, and then have a Python script which actually parses it and gives it in a readable format. So it was going through a lot of things, but we created that particular skill to reduce the effort that it needs to do. So while doing that is while creating the skill, we spent around like 90 tokens in our context window, which means that to get one thing to done, I have to spend 90. I had to fill up my 90K tokens in my context window, and then with the skill being created, and I started a fresh session with that. I didn't spend any tokens on that. It's basically just loads the skill, and it just calls Python script directly and gets the result. So yeah, and I think can go dive deep into the execution part here. So with the issues being created, the stories being created, I think let's start with story 1.1. Okay, it's about submitting a review, and second was about browsing. Okay, let's say it's implement story 1.1 here. I think we can use the same large session, or if you prefer, you can go for a new session altogether. So for me, I assume the plan is good, and I'm just saying plan is good. In real projects, you have to spend time in reading all of these things. But for demo purposes, I'm just going ahead with uh, plan. So yeah, let's start implementing.
Yeah. Start.
Hmm?
Start.
This is why people choose this.
This is good.
Oh,
Black.
okay. This is why two different people shouldn't do the same task. Okay. Anyways, the thing is, let's see. Uh, the specs are good. Let's create the development plan for story 1.1, and I say dot story. This is the one, right? Okay.
This is what
Yeah, you have the story here. Yeah, I just put this and I just going to press enter and then let's see what it does. Again, that story uses Octopus again.
Same way that you expect for the custom. See, custom command skill.
Yeah, the thing is, Cloud came up with commands initially. They came up with skills, and it's both of them are conceptually same, and they are now blurring the lines between them. You can have a skills folder and skills there, but it would be in the skills that and before that. Now, in Ramans, you don't really need to follow that. That's the basic difference between both of it.
so you get this custom touch DD. Yes. I think all right. Also, provide a ways to store the prompt and get just use it with my command or some other thing. Just the implementation is just
If it is actually proper skills, since like most of the agents are compatible with Claude.md and .cloud holder, they might actually pick up your skills correctly. The commands, I'm not sure, but the skills, if you are organizing that way, that might actually help. It is taking a lot of time. It actually takes a lot of time. Okay. Just one. I mean, this is a very demo process here. But if you're doing going through the if you're actually if you want to deal with bigger projects, then you have to be even more specific. We are pretty high level here throughout this demo. For example, I have Zex code base here. the editor you are seeing right now is there, and I have opened the editor's uh, source code here, and I was actually trying to implement uh, a particular feature for me using Claude. For example, when I go here, I would like to have a progress bar saying what is the amount of premium records I have used. So in VS Code, you used to have it, but in Z, I couldn't see that. I can use Copilot inside it, but except I couldn't see what is the amount of requests I have pending. So that is one thing I just wanted to build out. And what I did is I had to spend significant amount of time. I'm already aware of like Z's code base a bit. So what I had to stress, had to spend significant amount of time to figure out how openness usage would actually work. So this is how this is the context behind it. So we started with I started with figuring out what is the curl command to get the copilot usage so that you can see your info. Uh, this is the high level information that's present there. It's your curl command, the headers, and even the response here will be there. And this is the one we actually need. So this took me time to figure out because I had to dive into other code bases and figure out the information. So I got this, and then I had a lot code to uh, go through this and provide an implementation plan. So that's what this was. So this one is the implementation plan, which it almost wrote the code inside it, but it was actually correct. I was going through each and every detail it was giving out, and this is basically calls the proper usage metrics API and get the results, and then it also displays in two places. For example, I need to show the Copilot usage metrics here as well as in my agent panel. So for example, this is the agent panel, and I have settings here, and I wanted to be able to see it here as well. So I had to let it instruct. I was instructing it to do it for in two places. So the first place is basically the configuration view in the sense that is the agent panel stuff, and then there is something about adding it to the so yeah, this is about like adding in the context menu. So this is the plan I came up with, and I asked Claude to execute it. I was planning to execute it right here, but the timing was actually past one here. So I mean, so basically I got the code working, and I had it stashed here, but I was working so here. Maybe I can try, um, you know, getting applying it. So, oh, oops. Okay, okay. Yes, I already have the code instantly. I could try it once. Uh, so I get here, take out the code, take one of this, and then try to command P, apply batch. Yes, I got that. So I have the necessary code here. I just need to rerun my set with that. So that when I run it, it's going to compile the changes, and it's going to have so it's going to have my broader bar there. The thing about this example is, uh, if you take Z, it's going to be using it's actually having 1 million lines of code. I was a bit surprised, and that's the reason I choose this repo and added this board. I was already reviewing its PS in 3 times, so I have context of what is, and I just had plotted with this day. So yeah, so I think that's some of the. I think it would take some more time to actually build it up. So yeah, uh, yeah. Anyways, thank you, folks.